The year is 973. In the high spine of the Pyrenees, morning doesn't break, it shatters. Fog rolls between the peaks like a living thing, swallowing cliffs, wrapping valleys in silence, so thick even prayer feels muffled. And on a narrow ridge no wider than a man's stride, 900 Christian defenders stand waiting. Their armor mismatched, their banners torn, their faces carved by cold and fear. Below them, like a tide that refuses to ebb, stretches a Muslim army 50,000 strong, cavalry, archers, spearmen, engineers, commanders in silk. An army so large that the chronicles say it looked like the sea had climbed the mountains. And yet, by nightfall, those 900 will still be standing. The army below will not. This is the story every empire tried to claim, and every historian tried to explain. A battle where mathematics broke, where terrain became a weapon, and where faith or desperation carved a miracle into stone. Here on Crimson Historians, this is where we walk, into the places where logic thins and legends sharpen their teeth. Every view, every subscription, every voice helps us pull the truth out of the fog of forgotten centuries. Now step into that fog with me, because the ridge is waiting, and the impossible is about to happen. To understand this battle, you need to understand what drove 50,000 warriors into the mountains. It wasn't conquest, it was punishment. The Emir of Cordoba had lost patience with the Christian hill kingdoms. They paid tribute when forced, revolted when ignored, and hid behind mountains that swallowed armies whole. So in the spring of 973, the Emir sent an army not to defeat them, but to erase them. A chronicler writes, "It was not a campaign of victory, it was a campaign of extinction. Villages burned, monasteries looted, families dragged into chains. The survivors fled into the only refuge left, the mountains. There, 900 warriors, shepherds, knights, monks, fugitives, gathered under Count Aurelius, a man whose name appears in only 2 surviving documents. One calls him pious, the other calls him mad. Both may be correct. The ridge they chose was called La Peña del Lobo, the Wolf's Rock, a knife of stone rising above a chasm so deep that even the bravest men refused to look down. The only path to the summit was a narrow, twisting trail carved into the cliff centuries earlier by hermits. A path wide enough for one man, not an army. Aurelius looked at the ridge, then at his 900 half-starved fugitives, and he said the sentence that still echoes in Spanish folklore, "Here, one man equals 100, by which he meant, if the enemy comes in a line, they fight like a line. If they cannot surround you, they cannot defeat you. If they must climb to reach you, their numbers become a burden, not a strength." So the defenders sharpened their blades. They set rocks along the cliffs. They dug pits in places where the path broadened. Then they waited. The Muslim army arrived at dawn. The officers laughed when they saw the ridge. 900 men on a rock with nowhere to run. A gift, an execution. The commander, General Al-Mansur ibn Jafar, is described as brilliant, merciless, beloved by no one. A man who believed in overwhelming force and had 50,000 reasons too. He ordered his scouts forward. They returned, shaken. "The path is cursed," one said. "No man can climb it without dying." Al-Mansur didn't believe in curses. He believed in numbers. He sent 500 soldiers up the path. It took 17 minutes for them to die. Some were cut down by swords. Some slipped and fell screaming into the abyss. Some were crushed by boulders rolled from above. The ridge remained untouched. The defenders did not lose a single man. Al-Mansur grew angry. He sent 1,000 soldiers, then 2,000, then 5,000. The same thing happened each time. They climbed. The defenders waited. Then the mountain swallowed them. Bodies tumbled down the cliffs. Armor shattered on the rocks. The chasm filled with echoes of men who never reached the top. A diary fragment from a young soldier, found in a Cordoba archive, reads, "The mountain itself fought them. The earth groaned, the stones obeyed the Christians." Superstition? Maybe fear, certainly, but fear spreads faster than arrows. By midday, the Muslim camp was whispering. By afternoon, they were praying. Not for victory, for protection, against the mountain. Then something happened that should have ended the battle entirely. A storm rolled in. Not a gentle rain, a black, howling, bone-cracking storm that wrapped itself around the ridge like a living creature. Lightning struck the peaks. Thunder slammed against the cliffs. Fog swallowed everything. One chronicle says, God sealed the Christians behind a veil of cloud so that the enemy could not see the miracle he was about to perform. Another chronicle, written by Muslim historians, says, the storm scattered us like ants. Both agree on what came next. Aurelius ordered the attack. Yes, the attack. 900 men descended the ridge in the storm. Why? Because the storm did what mathematics couldn't. It blinded the army of 50,000. The defenders moved through the fog like shadows, striking the flank of the camp before anyone knew they had left the ridge. Tents collapsed, horses panicked, oil lamps fell and fire spread through the camp. Officers shouted orders no one could hear through the wind. In the chaos, the Muslim soldiers believed they were being attacked by thousands, not hundreds. A captured survivor later said, "The fog was full of warriors. When we struck one, he disappeared. When we fled, they appeared behind us." Mist makes ghosts of men. The tipping point came when the ground shifted. Literally. The storm had loosened the earth on the slopes, and as the Muslim cavalry tried to maneuver, the hillside collapsed under them. Mud, stone, bodies, horses, a cascade that roared like an avalanche and crushed everything in its path. Later writers called it an omen, a miracle, a curse. Modern geologists call it a storm-triggered landslide, but the chronicles agree. That landslide is what broke the army's spine. Terror spread faster than the mud. Soldiers dropped weapons and ran. Commanders were trampled, camps burned, lines dissolved. And through it all, the 900 fighters moved like men possessed, driving panic deeper, pushing survivors down the valley, thinning the army with each strike. By dawn, the ridge was silent. Below it, the valley was littered with destroyed tents, broken armor, abandoned horses, and the remnants of an army that had shattered itself in a single night. 900 men descended the ridge at sunrise. All 900. So what exactly happened that day? Was it strategy? Was it coincidence? Was it divine? Or was it something far simpler, a reminder that in mountains numbers lie? Military historians say the defenders used terrain as a force multiplier, fog as concealment, landslides as weapons, fear as a blade sharper than steel. The chroniclers say a miracle happened, and perhaps both are true. Faith fuels courage. Courage fuels strategy. Strategy bends the world until impossible victories become possible. But there is something else worth remembering. The Muslim army didn't lose to 900 men. They lost to the mountain. The defenders merely understood the mountain better. Generations later, villagers still retold the story as the mountain miracle. Not because 900 survived, but because they did not surrender. Not because 50,000 fell, but because they were defeated not by weapons, but by the land they underestimated. Empires write their triumphs in stone. Mountains write their truths in silence. And on that ridge, in the fog, in the thunder, in the footsteps of 900 men who refused to kneel, history bent. If stories like this remind you that the past is full of battles where the impossible became real, subscribe to Crimson Historians. Because some miracles weren't myths, they were mountains,